Hey, welcome back to Energy Explained. I'm Justin Rao. I'm here with my father, Vikram Rao. This is the father and son YouTube channel where we talk about energy concepts, trying to rip them from the headlines, Law and Order style. And every week we're trying to bring a new topic. And this week we're going to talk about Pete Buttigieg, the new Secretary of Transportation. And we're going to talk about how hyped we are a bit for infrastructure and the fact that you put an up-and-comer like Pete in that position. And what does that mean for our infrastructure and our transportation? But before we talk about that, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and I'm pretty hyped. I don't know about you, Dad. Who do you got in the big game?
Well, I got Kansas City, but that's because I got them in my fantasy football. So, I'm pretty parochial on these
But is
points.
that, but okay, but I got Kansas City because I think Pat Mahomes is going to go off. And he's such a nice young man, and when he's on in that little bit of an accent, I think he's just such a nice young man that I really want to see him, the next generation, take the reins. But we'll be staying up late. It'll be 12:30 out here in the Netherlands, so we'll be staying up late and hopefully WhatsApping about it. But let's get on to talking about Pete Buttigieg. Now, before the call, we were practicing how to say his last name. We kind of landed on Buttigieg, but if we're messing it up, and Pete, you're watching, we're happy you're watching. We're real sorry. But an up and comer in Secretary of Transportation. How does that sit with you? What was your reaction?
Yeah, I thought that my reaction is very positive because he's very much an up and comer. I'm sort of reminded of Obama when he was a senator, and then next thing he knew, he was president. And I would not be surprised if Pete's got similar aspirations. And so, assuming I'm more or less right on that, chances are pretty good that he'll want to make a splash.
Yeah,
And a splash is good for us.
yeah,
And he's in a very good situation because infrastructure in transportation is a bipartisan issue.
yeah.
There was a lot of agreement, perhaps not on what to do, but to do it. So I think there's a darn good chance that he will make a huge difference.
Now let's. I hope so too. And I personally was pretty hyped. I'm a fan of Mayor Pete's, and I love the idea of someone that wants to be president one day, which this guy clearly does, right? He went to Harvard and then McKinsey and then was a naval intelligence officer. Like he's got that profile where he's trying to be president. I mean, am I wrong about that? Like that guy, he's building himself up.
The only thing he could, if he's not a Navy SEAL, and that's about it.
But yeah, he drove like combat in Kabul or something. I mean, the guy's yeah, no, he wasn't like a JAG officer. He did some stuff. So to me, he's trying to become president. So he's gonna want a marquee project. And what I want to talk to you today about is what should that marquee project be? Because this week we saw him on the air on CNN. He's on TV all the time, and he was talking about high-speed rail. And he was saying that he wants to make a huge investment in high-speed rail. Now, what was your reaction to that? You a fan of high-speed rail right now in the United States?
Aha, you asked the more complete question. Fan of high speed rail in the United States, you said.
Yeah,
I am a fan of high speed rail, but I'm not sure I'm a fan of high speed rail in the United States. California has been trying to do it and been fits and starts and seemingly stumbling along. London tried to do it, London to Birmingham. See, let me tell you one of the big problems with high speed rail. Uh, the the ticket keeps going up.
the price,
Okay,
the cost
I
estimate, it goes up
cost
over time.
estimate.
You're not going to
I
get it what they sell you. They're going to get it for you.
the London Birmingham one, I think it's already doubled in a few years.
Yeah.
Okay, double.
Like the big dig
So,
in Boston, right? It was like supposed to cost X, and ended up costing like 4.5X.
oh, don't talk to me about Big Dig. I tried going through Boston in those days, and yes, okay, rest like the Big Dig. Uh, but the other issue is that these projects take a long time, and during that long time, administrations are likely to change.
Has to.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
we've all seen what happens when administrations
Yeah.
change on issues that may not have a lot of support. So, for example, there's a lot of support for increasing our infrastructure, no question.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bipartisan.
but
Yeah.
I am not sure that it'll be never near that support for high-speed rail, despite the fact that where it works, it does a marvelous job in Japan, in China,
Yeah.
in parts of Europe. Okay, I mean Japan's had this bullet train forever,
Yeah.
and 200 miles an hour. And Speaking of bullets, so high speed rail sounds more like a silver bullet. And you don't know silver bullets went out with the Lone Ranger.
Well,
So
yeah, I know you. I know you like your dated cultural references, but where I live in Amsterdam. My wife and I can take high speed rail to Paris. We can get to Paris, which is 500 kilometers away. We can get there in 2 hours. We love it. We hop on. We can take our dog. It's fantastic. Once you have it, you love it. But European cities also have a great urban rail transportation network. So when you get to this Paris or you get to Amsterdam, you can get around. He also talked about urban rail. Now, if you could do one, where are you sending your money?
I would do urban rail in a heartbeat.
Okay.
I've seen what happened in our old hometown of Houston when the light rail was built.
Yeah.
A lot of naysaying was done. A
Yeah.
lot of naysaying.
Yeah.
And I don't know, in 2 years, it paid for itself. Unbelievable. Okay. Public projects are not supposed to pay off that quickly. All right.
Yeah.
So I think the light rail infrastructure, urban infrastructure is the way to go. High-speed rail is point-to-point anyway. You need the other part, just like you pointed out. And if the other part doesn't already exist, then it's a problem. So I would say let's do the other part first.
Okay. So you're saying, the evidence says that urban rail has a great ROI. It's not a 20-year infrastructure project, so you can start seeing economic benefits a little more quickly. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we've talked earlier about everyday commuting by car is a bigger environmental impact than passenger long haul. And so is that part of your thinking as well?
Yeah, I mean, see, the big allure of high-speed rail is that it's 9 times more efficient than flying. Okay.
Okay.
So if you had it, it's fabulous. Then you don't have to fly, and it's 4 times more efficient than cars. So
And you can use electricity for it more easily, right? I mean,
yes, that's right. You can use electricity for it, and that could be green, and on you go. Okay. Although it could be diesel electric, but you don't have to be. High-speed rail is almost all pure electric.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and for urban rail, yes, it's the same sort of thing. I think it has a lot to say for itself. But I tell you, in the U.S., Europe is a whole lot different. Public transportation in the U.S. I mean, in the U.S., I think it's there in the fine print in the Bill of Rights that you have the right to get into a car and go any distance you want, anytime. Okay.
It is, right? No, it is. Because when you're out here, one of the things you say, well, what do Europeans think about Americans? One of the things is Americans will drive. It doesn't matter how far it is. They will just pick up and drive. They kind of like doing so.
So I think it's a cultural thing. And so I think it's horses for courses, the British say. Whether high-speed rail is right for us, I'm not sure. But urban rail is also going to get pushed back. Remember, like it did in Houston,
Yeah.
but economics talks. Okay,
Yeah.
so if it pays for itself, let's start with that.
Okay, so now let's do urban. In terms of transportation enhancements for cities, it's all about urban rail. Now, in your classic infrastructure projects in the sort of more country areas, we hear a lot about bipartisan support for just a good old classic infrastructure upgrade. Bridges, roads, everything. What is that? When you think about that infrastructure that is the undergirder of our economy, what is that, and what kind of upgrades would you see as recommended?
Yeah. So whatever you do, whether it's better bridges, more bridges, even high-speed rail, whatever you do in infrastructure, inevitably you will use more steel and more concrete. No ifs or buts. Okay. And here is the problem. The administration currently has said they will increase infrastructure. Cool, bipartisan support. It's also said it's going to do something dramatic about the environment, CO2. Here is the problem. Any increase in infrastructure will increase the steel and cement, therefore will increase CO2 production. Why? Because steel and cement are the two largest industrial producers of carbon dioxide. So you use more steel, more cement means more carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So in my view, any government that pushes for more infrastructure should at the same time push for greener steel and greener concrete.
Okay. Now, strong statement. because I also do recall Mayor Pete went on TV talking about how environmental impact is the forefront of his agenda. In fact, one of the reasons he was favoring high-speed rail was that it could be electrified and so on, as well as urban rail. But you're saying the other half of his agenda, it necessitates environmental policy and trade policy interacting with our transportation policy. That's a confluence of some areas that haven't really, I think, historically worked together a lot in the U.S. government. Am I right about that?
That's correct. They don't often, but they will have to. The idea of green steel, by the way, is proliferating. Europe, for example, has pretty much said that they'll put a tariff on steel if it's not as green as what they do in Europe. Okay. And on other things, not just for steel. And so there is a groundswell of movement to make steel green and also to make cement concrete greener. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is all I'm saying is this. Yes, his department and allied department, in this case, probably Department of Energy, should collaborate to say, okay, increase the infrastructure, bipartisan support, but let's get support for also doing greener steel and greener concrete, because otherwise you are implicitly, you may not realize it, but you're implicitly going against your other tenet, which is to reduce CO2.
Okay, now that's a tough ask, right? You're asking for big infrastructure improvement and foundational changes to the standards we place for the biggest industrial materials we use. So you're giving Joe Biden's administration a tall ask. Now you have, Pete Buttigieg coming in, an up-and-comer, someone that's probably the highest profile name to have this position in recent history. He wants a marquee project. He wants to point back and say, make me president because I did this as Secretary of Transportation. He calls up Vikram Rao and he says, what is this? What would you tell him?
So what I would tell Mayor Pete.
I see you're just punting on saying his last name, by the way. I'm just going to comment.
I'm going to take a shot at it. Buttigieg. Okay, I did.
Sorry,
okay.
Sorry.
I think, yeah. I bet you he'll be called Mayor Pete, but whatever. I would tell him that he should take a crack at this for the following reason. Those industries are primed to want to do it.
That is the crack at this. You're saying the green steel, green concrete.
Green steel, green cement. Because they know they're poster children for CO2 among industrial sources. Okay. And I told you the European situation. Okay. So it's not so much that we export steel to Europe, but the point is that, see, you can't do these things unless the folks doing it want it.
Yeah.
Okay. It just doesn't happen. It's So I would tell him they do want it. Just enable it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is for major projects, interest-free loans. It's little known the fact that Obama bankrolled Tesla with the loan guarantees. Tesla paid it back, but So
but you can affect private industry. You can control. You can put some levers on people in ways that aren't necessarily policy, because you invest in the areas that are doing the things that you imply that you need in the future.
Provided they want to do it.
Yeah.
Or can be persuaded to do it.
That they see light to it. They see clear sight to it.
Yeah, and I'm here to tell him, if he asks me, that they do want to do it. They don't have a clear roadmap. Help supply the roadmap.
Okay, but here's where it gets interesting for me, is because what you're saying is that this up-and-comer Secretary of Transportation should make as his marquee project primarily massive progress on the standards we put on steel and cement, because those are the things we make stuff out of, and that will be his legacy. And he'll push urban rail. He should push urban rail rather than throw it all behind high-speed rail. That's pretty radical, but quite interesting to me.
Yeah, see, high-speed rail also takes a long time. In his tenure, it won't even happen.
No, they want like 1 mile of track.
So if he wants to make a splash, he should do stuff that is more shovel-ready.
Yeah.
Okay. And see, I'm aware of directions the industry is taking to make greener cement and greener steel. It just needs a push.
Okay. Well, that, to me, for a conversation that started about high-speed rail and ended on greener cement, and steel. That's why we talked to you, because I wouldn't have thought that's where this conversation would go, and that's really interesting. Dad, thanks obviously for your time on Super Bowl Sunday. We'll keep our fingers crossed for the Chiefs tonight. And of course, thanks for viewing. If it's one of your second or third videos, thank you. And please hit subscribe or watch the other videos. We're learning how to promote. Thanks. Bye.